Hello and welcome to another Lincoln property blog, brought to you by Ben from Walters of Lincolnshire. This week we look at why 1 in 7.7 Lincoln homeowners cut their asking price. When you have had your property on the market for a while, many sellers eventually face the same difficult decision: whether their asking price needs adjusting to reignite buyer interest. As over the past few years, the number of homes available across Lincoln has increased significantly. In February 2021, there were around 2,192 properties for sale. By February 2026, that figure had climbed to 3,223. With so many more homes competing for Lincoln buyers' attention, pricing strategy has become one of the most important factors in achieving a successful sale. Understanding how Lincoln buyers search. Most buyers begin their search on the major property portals such as Rightmove, Zoopla, and On the Market. These platforms organise properties into price bands that buyers use to filter their searches. For example, a home priced at £500,000 instead of £499,000. £950 may appear in two different search brackets: £475,000 to £500,000 and £500,000 to £525,000. That small difference can dramatically increase visibility by putting the property in front of a larger pool of potential buyers. Why the size of a price reduction matters. If a property has been on the market for a while, reducing the price can often bring it back into buyers' focus. However, the size of that reduction is important. On Rightmove and On the Market, a property usually needs a minimum reduction of around 2% before it triggers new alerts to buyers who have saved searches. On Zoopla, the threshold is typically around 3%. That small adjustment can push a listing back into email notifications and search results, putting it in front of fresh buyers who may not have seen it previously. What the property market data shows in Lincoln. Recently, several local homeowners have commented that they seem to be seeing more properties reduce their prices than they did a few years ago. The data broadly supports that observation. In 2021, Lincoln averaged around 192 price reductions per month. Today that number has risen to 394 each month. Yet this increase is largely explained by the fact that there are simply more homes available for sale. Over the last 5 years, the proportion of homes that have reduced their prices has remained relatively stable. Across the last 5 years, 1 in every 7.7 Lincoln homes, 13.03%, reduced their asking price each month. In other words, price reductions are not necessarily becoming dramatically more common. There are simply more properties competing in the marketplace. So, what are the Lincoln price reduction trends since 2021? During 2021, 192 of the 1,805 properties reduced their asking prices each month in Lincoln, an overall reduction rate of 10.5%. In 2022, this increased to 223 of the 1,787 properties each month, an overall reduction rate of 12.2%. That number increased again in 2023, with 399 of the 2,725 properties reducing their asking prices each month, an overall reduction rate of 14.6%. By 2024, 403 of the 3,100 properties each month reduced their asking prices, an overall reduction rate of 12.9%. Last year in 2025 it was 436 of the 3,243 properties each month, an overall reduction rate of 13.4%. And so far this year, in 2026, 394 of the 3,183 properties each month have reduced their asking prices, an overall reduction rate of 12.4%. The underlying lesson is clear. In a busier market, pricing correctly from the outset becomes even more important. Getting the price right from day one for your Lincoln home. Homes that launch at an ambitious price often struggle to generate early momentum. When interest in your home is slow, sellers are usually forced to make larger reductions later. By contrast, homes priced sensibly from the beginning tend to generate stronger early demand, more viewings, and often achieve offers faster. The reason is simple. Every property has a window where it attracts the greatest level of buyer attention, and that window is usually in the first few weeks of marketing. The data behind this is quite revealing. Analysis of millions of UK property transactions using information from sources including 20EA, Rightmove, Denton House Research and other industry datasets shows that only 53.5% of homes that come onto the market actually go on to sell. In other words, only about 1 in 2 homeowners who list their property ultimately move, with the rest withdrawing unsold. Pricing also influences how smoothly the process runs. Properties that are realistically priced from day one and therefore do not need a price reduction are around 135% more likely to achieve a sale than homes that later need their asking price adjusted. They also tend to sell in roughly a third of the time and are around half as likely to fall through once a sale is agreed. Momentum fades quickly. If a property has not sold by week 12, it has historically had only around a 14.5% chance of selling at all. By that stage, many buyers assume there is something wrong with the property, even when that isn't the case. Another interesting statistic is how close homes sell to their final asking price. Not the original asking price, but the asking price before the sale was agreed. Since 2001, analysing the 20+ million homes sold in the UK, those homes achieved between 0.9% and 1.3% below their final asking price. In other words, once a property is priced correctly in the market, the eventual sale price is usually very close to the last advertised figure. This is why early pricing decisions matter so much. Some sellers prefer to test the market with a higher figure. There is nothing inherently wrong with that strategy, provided it is handled quickly and pragmatically. If interest is slower than expected, a timely price review within the first 2 to 3 weeks will help keep the property competitive, while buyer interest remains strong. Waiting several months before adjusting the price can be far more damaging. By then, the listing has often lost its sense of freshness, and many active buyers have already moved on. For Lincoln homeowners who have already been on the market for a while, this is not about dwelling on the past. Markets shift, competition increases, and sometimes the price simply needs to be repositioned to match current buyer demand. The key is acting decisively rather than slowly. In most cases, an early realistic price protects both the seller's momentum and their equity, while delayed adjustments tend to prolong the process and reduce the chances of a successful move. My message to all Lincoln homeowners: the Lincoln housing market remains active, but buyers today have far more choice than they did a few years ago. In this environment, realistic pricing and flexibility are key to achieving a sale. If you are already on the market and unsure whether your asking price is helping or hindering your chances of selling, or you are thinking about moving and want to understand where your property sits in the current Lincoln market, it can be useful to have an open conversation about the numbers. Whether you are a Lincoln homeowner wondering what to put your home on the market for, or you're on the market with another agent and wondering where you stand in the marketplace, feel free to give me a no-obligation phone call or send me a direct message. To ensure all our clients get the absolute best experience and a total marketing strategy as unique as their homes, we only list 20 properties per month. Our March and April market appraisal slots are now available to book. We ensure that you are always a name and not just a number with Walters.